underway with VBS. So this morning we have our first in a series of topics about what? We're blasting off to where? Heaven, absolutely heaven. So I'm glad you all got that right. I actually heard some correct answers on the other side of the room this morning, so that's good. The topic is why we want to go to heaven. Tonight we're going to have another in a series about heaven, and we'll have a lesson in the adult class every night this week for that. As I prepared over the last couple weeks for this lesson, and I didn't share this with anybody else, it seemed to me that this title didn't quite hit the spot. The more I read and the more I thought about heaven, it just didn't seem right to say or ask the question or make the statement why we want to go to heaven. It seemed understated in a way because it's at the heart of everything we do. If you really start thinking about why we do what we do, why we're here this morning, why you've come all the way from the great state of Alabama to be with us. And this group looks more awake and more excited than this group this morning, by the way, just as a matter of feedback. And I don't know how or what to fill in this word with. You guys have any ideas? If we just took want out, seems aspirational. We need. Desire. I thought about thirst and hunger. Like, when I think about desire, it's like way back many decades ago, I can remember playing high school basketball, and our coach would run us and run us and run us. And then he'd say, okay, get a drink. Whew. We really ran toward that water fountain. I was really thirsty. Or in August football practice, right? You guys remember some of those when you were just about to die for thirst. To me, rather than why we want to go to heaven, why do we hunger to go to heaven? Why are we thirsty to go to heaven? Or maybe why do we crave going to heaven? Or why do we yearn to go to heaven? So it's in that sort of more emotive thought that I put this lesson together for us. So it's summertime, and we're at VBS, and what else do we do? It's summer, we take vacations. Maybe you've had yours. I haven't had mine yet. I pray I get one. But when you think about vacations, why do we take those? To regenerate. Well, that's a big word, regenerate. What's that? You were reading this morning about vacations and dreaming. To regenerate. What do we mean when we say regenerate? Renew, charge our batteries. Yeah, that's why we take a vacation. It's a break from the routine, right? It's a pause from the demands of daily life. Whether that's school for some of you, whether that's work for some of the rest of us, whether that's honeydew projects for the rest of you, it doesn't matter. It's a break from those things. It's a pause from those demands. Sometimes we spend quality time with other people on vacation. You've probably done that. You have an extended family. You don't see them maybe every month or every week. So you decide to meet on Tybee Island. You get a big house out there, and you all stay together. We have some members that did that just last week here. My family did that once. Spend quality time with other people that we don't always see. New experiences and new adventures. We might go somewhere that's interesting to us, right? Like Savannah. A lot of people come to Savannah to take a vacation. Got people right here doing that. And then a sense of excitement. So it's a break from the routine. It's a sense of excitement. Here's one of my favorite verses about heaven. This is from Colossians 3, 1 through 2. Since you have been raised to a what? A new life with who? Christ. What do? We set our minds, we set our sights on the realities of what? Heaven. That's our topic this week. You're going to be heavened out by the end of Wednesday night. That's a place where Christ sits, in the place of honor at God's right hand. Now, I highlighted the second verse for a reason. Think about the things of heaven. Think about those things, not the things of earth. I mean, how many of us already this morning have thought about heaven? And I got my work cut out. You guys didn't even think about it today. See, that's just it. Paul said in 1 Colossians, think on the things of heaven, not the things on the earth. Do you think about anything you had to do this morning when you got up? Oh, come on, get them up. Everybody did, right? Everybody thought about the things of today. But only a few of us thought about the things of heaven, the things of tomorrow. So that's why that's one of my favorite verses, because I'm just like you. I need to be reminded of things about heaven. That's the great message of this week, is that we have a great topic. One of the best topics I can think about that could have been chosen. All right, we're just going to keep rolling. Here's a question. I'm going to reverse this. Is there anybody here that's not planning on going to heaven? I gave you a pass on that one. Well, of course, we all do, right? This is like one of those rhetorical questions. So why bother? Well, here's some Pew Research, and that's a research firm, and they say Americans, 72%, just the people walking down the street, believe in heaven. That's a good start. 58% from that same poll believe in hell. And that's interesting. That's probably not surprising either. We don't really want to believe in hell, do we? Especially if we're unchurched. Those that are not part of our fellowship would rather not believe in hell. Why? They're scared about it. They don't want to go there. Neither do we. So that's not a surprising number, but 72%. But the reason I put that up was to put this up. 32%, or about a third of us, think about mortality at least once per week. Maybe you didn't think about it today. Maybe you didn't think about death, dying, in heaven this morning, right? You got a lot going this morning. We all do. These folks over here preparing to support you. You're here on a mission, right? We're all doing outreach. We all have Sunday morning class. We have worship. We have a lot going on. This might not be, except for the classes that we're having, this might not be the morning you would think about heaven or dying or your eternal home. Why do we not think about heaven more? Why do we not think about heaven more than we do? You can take a break and I'll give you my answers to that question. Never been there. We typically don't think a lot about places we have never been, right? Typically, yes. Somebody name a place you have never been. Niagara Falls. You've probably seen pictures of it. Would you like to go there? I had been there not long ago. I got wet. And the falls are bigger than they look like in pictures. See, I can start to tell her the story about Niagara Falls because I've been there, right? Some of you been to Niagara Falls? Yeah. I recommend that you go there. We could do that about anything. Grand Canyon, downtown Savannah. But here you go. It's also about heaven. It's also true about heaven that we don't really know anybody that's been there. So just like when Sharon said, well, I'd like to go to Niagara Falls, I started to tell her a little bit about it. But if I said, I've never been to heaven, and I talk with one of you, and you say, you don't get into a story about heaven necessarily, because what? You've never been there either. You've never been there either. So these two might be really good reasons why we don't think about it as much as we should. And we need to fix that. These are kind of excuses, not reasons, but they're a little bit of both, aren't they? We don't know anyone that's been there. We can read about people, or we can read about it in the Bible. There are other things. The things that we have to do every day, our immediate concerns, our immediate priorities, sometimes for ourselves, but oftentimes for other people, just take what? They take the place of thinking about heaven more. We're just generally busy people. We have family responsibilities. These are not bad things. So these are like justifications, right, for why we don't think about heaven more. We have employment, some of us. It's abstract. I put that down there. That was a few days ago. When I say it's abstract, what do I mean by that?
It's an unknown. It's not, we can't really identify.
Can't reach out and grab it, can we? It's something we've read about, right? Or we heard somebody talk about it from something they read about. But we can't reach out and grab it. It's not concrete to us like the things around us. Very abstract concept. And finally, we get to that other word down here. What is that word? Right down there at the bottom, doubt. Right? So since we haven't seen it, we've never been there, we don't know anyone that's been there, we can only read about it, it really kind of depends on our faith, right, and our belief in what we can read and know from God's Word. So many people have a little doubt about the existence of heaven and life after physical death. So there's a lot there that we could talk about. Anybody got another reason why you think we don't think about heaven more? It's scary because I might feel that I'm not ready, not prepared to go there. And actually tonight, Lenny's going to talk about that very topic. So because we have 5 lessons, right, Don? 5 lessons on heaven for us adults, us old folks. We have to kind of stay in our lane a little bit because, right, we're going to have some overlap anyway. But the topic tonight is a prepared place for prepared people. And so we're going to address that very thought that we need to get prepared. We need to be prepared to go to heaven and erase that doubt. Good, so we'll move right on. Why should we think about heaven more? This one's pretty easy. These are really important though, to us that are Christians. It gives us hope in a world filled with what? Despair. Just turn on the TV, right? Just listen to the news on your phone, whatever it is you do, however you get your information about this place that we live in. There's a lot of despair out there, a lot of challenge, but it gives us hope. It changes our perspective, gives us peace amid that chaos if we let it. It centers us and helps us maintain daily priorities. These are the antithesis of things that we've already talked about. Helps us sustain our excitement for faithful living. It's a challenge to do right. And of course, as we say, we can be scared of hell. We can also be aspirational and planning for heaven and be motivated by that to do better here. It's a fuel for our spiritual growth. It's a fuel for our spiritual growth. That's what we're filling our tanks with this week. Heaven is fuel. Go ahead.
The idea of meeting God, being with God, is the desire we want, but it's also breaking through.
Never done it before. A lot of anticipation there. And the judgment that comes before. So we get motivations from knowing about and believing and having faith in what happens after we take that last breath. And for some of us, we say, nah, that's years from now. Or some of us say, I know when I was younger, I didn't really fear death so much. I think we've talked about this in other classes. But maybe like you, if you're younger, you fear, well, maybe God's going to rain fire down on the earth and the earth is going race in the Bible, we're thinking about people running, right? Paul in his books talks about that a lot. This verse is probably my second favorite verse. You ever wonder why all of the time, all of our thoughts, all of our efforts, and all of our lives seem to be so consumed with living in this life comfortably? Yet, the Bible reminds us over and over again that this life is like a vapor. What is your life? You are a mist. Some versions say fog. Some versions say vapor that appears for a long time. I got a sneak preview of what's behind those balloons right there. And it's a blast off, right? What happens at blast off? The smoke, the vapor, it just appears for a little time and then it goes away. And then it vanishes, James says. That's our life. And you know what? When I was there, right past me. Right past me. Anybody else that same way? I mean, you really didn't. Now it hits you like what? A ton of bricks. Because the vapor is fading. The vapor is going away. And life just seems to have gone with it. So that's why it's my second favorite verse. Not that it keeps me centered, keeps me in perspective, actually.
It shows how much the world has infiltrated our lives, that we attach to things and all of that instead of focusing on heaven and Christ. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And, there's not a person in here that's never been to a funeral, but that's a very reflective time. It's usually somebody that's close to us, or we know folks that are close to the person that's deceased. But it's creates a very stark memory of naked I came, and naked I shall return. It's just a visualization of that. As we think about Niagara Falls or we think about the Grand Canyon, talking about death. But when you actually see it, when you actually experience it, you realize the brevity of life, but you also realize in and out, right? In and out. In with nothing and out with nothing. So it puts all of the comfortability at risk, doesn't it? Like, don't focus on that. Don't focus on that. Don't focus on that. Powerful lessons about heaven. Another great verse is the verse in John 14:2, which we'll read in a minute. There's a mansion prepared for us where there are what? Room for every one of you. Every one of us. There's a room there. And I keep thinking about that. I'm going to check in. I'm going to get my room number. I'm going to go to my room for those of us that travel. Somebody prepared that room. Jesus said, I go away to what? Prepare that place for each one of us. It's there. Will you occupy it? Another verse, Philippians 3:20. If you've been baptized, you're a member of the Lord's body. You are a citizen in the kingdom. You are a citizen. We want to talk about what it means to be a citizen. And then the last thing is we get a crown of life. Revelation 21:4. Here's 14:2. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have not told you that I go to prepare a place for you? But our citizenship is in heaven, and from it we await a Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. I think this is very helpful. It's not a verse we talk about a lot. If somebody says, well, where do you live? I say Savannah. I'm a citizen of Savannah. That's Chatham County. That's out there at the landings. That's in Georgia. I live in the United States. And if you're on the other side of the globe, to say you're in the United States means a lot, right? If you can find somebody from the U.S. like you have a kindred connection with them. All that is true, but it's not nearly as true as if we think about blasting off to heaven and we're on our journey to get there. Where is our citizenship, really? It says it right here. But our citizenship is in heaven. Not a time in my life, 5 decades or so, yeah, plus or minus one, plus one, that I ever answered it that way. When somebody said, where are you from? Where are you going? Like, where's home? Just something to think about. I'm not saying we have to answer them that way, but I'm saying we need to start thinking about it that way. That's what I believe. We need to think about, and that's why we like being with the people that are here, because we're going to be with the people here, there. Does that make sense? You think about it? It might change, it might alter how we interact with the people here. Right? We go to the highest level of our interaction meter when we talk to one another, when we plan together, when we do together. We should be our very best versions of ourselves. Why? Well, yes, because we're Christians. But it's not only that I'm going to see Paulie today. Our citizenship, we're going to the same place. And I don't know all the details about that, but I'm going to assume that we might just know each other later on. So that's why this connection is like the strongest bond that we could possibly have in our lifetime. All right, I am really speeding through. What does it mean? Well, I've got a bunch of words here, and we could play the word games, but it means we're an inhabitant, we're a member of the kingdom, we're a resident, we're an occupant, we permanently reside, and we dwell. These are all words that mean we're citizens together. We're citizens together. And citizens live together, and they work together, right? Just like we're doing in this VBS. We're cooperative. We have the same goals in our citizenship, to be members together, to reside together, to occupy this space together, to dwell together this week. All right, now for the harder part. A couple of weeks ago, I started thinking, we sing a lot of songs about heaven. So I just started thinking, well, I'll do a little checking on that. So in our book, the one that's in the pews, that's old school for us. We don't use the songbooks much. From number 790 all the way to number 850, every one of those songs is about heaven. So one of the things that I decided, I'm your song leader this morning, unfortunate for you, but every song we sing is going to be about heaven today. So if at the end of today's worship you didn't recognize that, we need to talk. All right? Because it's going to be very clear. So I hope you don't miss that. So most of our songs come from these sections. But there's a lot of other songs in our songbook. Not just these 60 songs. Quick math here. 60 songs. There are many others in this book, in our songbook, that has over 1,000 songs that are about heaven. I mean, it's amazing. And so I just a point to everybody, just a point to self that, I'm not sure that I really thought about that as in-depthly as I have over the last few days. What's your favorite? Anybody got a favorite? Let's see. Let's look at number 790. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. She's not a plant. She's not a plant. It seems like it, but she's not. Yeah, that's 790. That's a song. If we had more time, I'd like to talk with you about like the story behind the song, because they all have a story, as you know. And this one goes back to, I've heard the name like Fanny Crosby. That's the name everybody's heard. Well, the person that wrote this actually was contemporary, lived at the same time as Fanny Crosby. So in the late 1800s, I think the lyrics to this song were written right around the turn of the 19th century, about 1898, if I remember right. And so, I'm sorry? Yeah, that's right. They were. And she was a Bible school teacher, and she wrote it really for her Bible school students, actually. So stanza 1 in this song, this is a verse we've already looked at this morning, without going into the deep history on it, really was a reference to the book of John, chapter 14 and verse 2. Stanza 2, 2 Corinthians 4:17. Stanza 3, Revelation 2:10, and stanza 4, Hebrews 12:1. Do you see what's coming here? 14:2 we looked at. So what I have prepared for us to do this morning is to take a look at this song together in our final few minutes. This is actually one of the songs that we'll sing this morning. We won't necessarily do it today because you're not awake yet, but you will be in just a few minutes here. Sing the wondrous love of Jesus. By the way, when I sing this song, I always remember this one point. And somewhere in my earlier years, there was an asterisk to this song. Any of you remember what that is? Now, this song is the older version when we all get to heaven, but the newer version says, and maybe more accurately so, but I think we're singing it to God, and we're saying to God, we're Christians. When the saved get to heaven is another way you'll see this sometimes sung, when the saved get to heaven. Sing the wondrous love of Jesus, sing his mercy and his grace. Why is mercy and grace so important? It's because we don't get there any other way. I mean, that is the only way we get to heaven. All right, even with our obedience, without mercy and grace, we don't make it, right? Obviously, obedience is important. In the mansion, so that's where this idea of 14:2 comes. In the mansion I'm going to prepare, there are many rooms for us. So when we sing this in a few minutes in our worship, in the mansions bright and blessed, he'll prepare for us a place. All right, so author pulled from John 14:2 in this first stanza. Of course, here's the refrain. The second stanza, what I've highlighted here from this verse is, for this light momentary affliction. Said another way, our bad troubles, right? If you put it in perspective, it lifts it to our light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. This is the second stanza. While we walk the pilgrim pathway, clouds will overspread the sky. Now, today it happens to be getting cloudy. Now, that's not going to impact us because that's a circumstance, right? We might be happy if it's cloudy, but it's not going to affect our joy, right? Or we might be sad if it's cloudy. But we know as we walk, clouds, storms come into our lives, right? That's what verse 2 is talking about. We'll spread over the sky. But when the traveling days are over, it's not going to matter, right? Not a shadow, not a sigh, because we'll be rejoicing in heaven. The refrain again. Revelation 2:10, be faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. Be faithful unto death is the phrase that the author of the song leaned on in verse 3. Let us then be true and what? Faithful, right? So right from Revelation 2:10, be faithful unto death, and I'll give you a crown of life. Trusting, serving every day. Be true, be faithful, trust, serve every day. Just one glimpse of him in glory will the toils of life repay. So just one glimpse will make whatever little things we deal with on a day-to-day basis that maybe are circumstances that we'd rather not endure, they would make all of that go away. And finally, Hebrews 12:1, run with endurance the race is the idea from Hebrews 12:1. And in the last verse, onward to the what? Prize. That's what this whole song is about, the prize of heaven that's before us. Soon his beauty will behold. Soon the pearly gates will be open, and we shall tread the streets of gold. This is a Sunday morning where we're going to be challenged in our class and in our singing to think about heaven, because that's the theme for this week. Well, I teed this up pretty well. Living the lesson this morning as we close this. How our focus on heaven translates to actions today. This is what we've been talking about. If we think about heaven, or we're focused on heaven, we're not as focused on today. And we talked about that. Focus on joy and not circumstances, right? So I said, I made some changes to my slide deck on Friday after I saw Thursday night's video online about and we don't normally do this, but I want to show you this clip because it's so powerful about, it's a clip from the Oklahoma Sooners ladies softball team, won the national championship, College World Series this past week. You can imagine the elation. You can imagine the look what we did sort of moment that is, right? Basically went undefeated for the year. And what I'm going to show you is this clip, which lasts about 3 minutes, and then we're going to wrap up. But I'd really like for you to give this your attention, especially those of us that are a little bit younger, because this had such an impact on me that I felt like everybody should see this. And unfortunately, we can't play the video through the system in this room, but I'm going to play it here online for us in just a minute. And when you get a little time this afternoon, I encourage you to go online and watch this. Could even make it a topic for devotion this week if you have a time period for that. It's that good. So what you're going to see is a post-game interview of 3 players, and I'm going to play that audio for you now. And the breakout moment is you have an ESPN reporter that asks a question about how joyful they are that they've just won the national championship. And I want you to listen to their response carefully.
To the players, I know you talk about keeping the joy of the game, but I'm curious, it's a long season, right? And you guys have had the target on your back the entire time, the win streak being number 1. How do you handle the unique pressure that comes with that? How do you keep the joy for so long when anxiety seems like a thing that could very easily set in?
Well, the only way that you can have a joy that doesn't fade away is from the Lord. And any other type of joy is actually happiness that comes from circumstances and outcomes. I think Coach has said this before, but joy from the Lord is really the only thing that can keep you motivated, just in a good mindset, no matter the outcomes. Thankfully, we've had a lot of success this year, but if it was the other way around, joy from the Lord is the only thing that can keep you embracing those memories, moments, friendships, and all of that. So that's really the only answer to that, because there's no other way that softball can bring you that, because of how much failure comes in it and just how much of a roller coaster the game can be.
1,000% agree with Grace Lyons. I went through that my freshman year. I was so happy to win the college. I've talked about this before, but I was just so happy that we won the College World Series, but I didn't feel joy. I didn't know what to do the next day. I didn't know what to do for that following week. I didn't feel filled. and I had to find Christ in that. And I think that is what makes our team so strong, is that we're not afraid to lose, because if it's not the end of the world if we do lose. Yes, obviously we've worked our butts off to be here and we want to win, but it's not the end of the world because our life is in Christ, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think a huge thing that we've really just latched onto is eyes up. And you guys see us doing this and pointing up, but we're really like fixing our eyes on Christ. And that's something where, like they were saying, you can't find a fulfillment in an outcome, whether it's good or bad. And I think that's why we're so steady in what we do, and our love for each other and our love for the game, because we know this game is giving us the opportunity to glorify God. And I just think once we figured that out and that was our purpose and everyone was all in with that, it's really changed so much for us. And I mean, I know myself, I've seen so much of a growth in myself with, once I turned to Jesus and I realized how he had changed my outlook on life, not just softball, but understanding how much I have to live for, and that's living to exemplify the kingdom. And I think that brings so much freedom. And I'm sure everyone's story is similar, but we all have those great testimonies that have really like shown how awesome it is to play for something bigger. And I think that's just what brings me so much joy. And no matter the outcome, whether we get a trophy in the end or not, this isn't our home. And I think that's what's amazing about it, is we have so much more. We have an eternity of joy with our Father, and I'm so excited about that. And yes, I live in the moment, but I know this isn't my home. And no matter what, my sisters in Christ will be there with me in the end, when we're with our King. So.
I thought that said it better than I could say it. I wish you would go online and watch that. It's powerful. And what's even probably as interesting as what they said is go online and read the comments. The comments are pretty supportive, and they've gone so far as to say we're not going to walk that back. We're not going to retract that, because this is who we are. This is what we believe. We put it out there for a reason, and I think there are thousands and thousands of reviews and views online about that. And I thought we have some younger folks in our audience today, and I think this is something. It's good for all of us, but in particular younger folks, that we can stand up. We can stand up. There's no bigger audience, there's no bigger stage than the one that these ladies were on this past week. And they stood up and said the things that we just said in this room about circumstances, happiness, and joy. They preached that sermon just as well as we could have right here on a national stage. Very powerful. So I hope you'll realize that the thing about heaven is death has to precede it. And the thing I like about this verse, death is swallowed up in victory. That's Paul quoting from Isaiah in the Old Testament. So today and tomorrow, whenever death comes knocking and we all make that jump to heaven, that's victory. So what we're talking about this week is winning the game of life. Not the College World Series, but the game of life. And that's why it's even more vitally important. And these ladies put that in really the perfect perspective. So I wanted to wrap up with that. Thanks, Don, for helping out. Tonight, again, come back, a prepared place for prepared people. Appreciate your attention, and we'll take a break now and get ready for our worship. Thank you all.